want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. More about her racism letter. Harry's wife is engaged in issuing her third excuse for non-attendance at the coronation. First of all, it was because it was the case of wanting more family time, because it was Archie's birthday. Then it was because it's Charles's event, and she wanted the focus to be on him by continuing to talk about herself. Thirdly, it's now shifted to it being about the fact that she wrote some time ago to King Charles, when he was Prince Charles, expressing her dissatisfaction about the failure to address the allegations of unconscious bias surrounding speculation about Archie's skin colour. The Telegraph is reporting on this, and this is worth further examination and bears additional analysis. The report by Victoria Ward continues by stating that it was confirmed earlier this month that the Duke would attend the King's coronation on May the 6th of alone, as the Duchess adopted to remain at home in California with their children. The desire to put her own family first by staying with Prince Archie on his 4th birthday, which falls on the same day, was said to have been the deciding factor. Excuse number 1. However, she also wanted to protect herself by sidestepping the inevitable criticism and attention that her appearance would have provoked, which is actually the real reason why she's not coming, and everything else is just an explanation to try and make her look better in light of her cowardice. Royal sources, the Telegraph tells us, indicated that they never expected the Duchess to fly over for the occasion, aware that her private correspondence with the King had not been enough to prevent further mudslinging from the Sussexes. Once again, of course, Harry's wife issues a hoover to Prince Charles, as he then was, in order to assert control over him. She doesn't get the response that she requires, and therefore continues to smear through the mudslinging that has gone on. The continuing souring of relations within the royal family has seen the Sussexes star in a 6-part shitflix docu-series and the publication of the Duke's memoir, Wah, in which he squarely took aim at his family, of course aided and abetted by his wife, and as we know from a reading of or analysis of Spare, her paw prints are all over it. The royal race row involving Lady Susan Hussey, Elizabeth II's longest-serving lady-in-waiting last autumn, has also not helped, although the Sussexes were said to acknowledge that the incident reflected outdated attitudes held by the older generation. Once again, Harry's wife sitting in judgment on mankind, or humankind, by saying, I see that this reflects attitudes that are outdated, held by the older generation. Prince William was quick to convey his own disappointment in his godmother via a spokesman who said he agreed with the course of action, where she resigned after it was claimed that she had subjected Ngozi Fulani, a domestic violence campaigner, to an interrogation over her heritage at a Buckingham Palace event. The speed with which the palace dealt with the furore appeared to prove that the Sussexes' allegations had made their mark. The palace is also aware of the Sussexes' frustration that initial email correspondence about the coronation made no reference to their children and their potential involvement, threat to control. The omission only fueled their feeling that their family plays second fiddle to the Waleses. Well, they do, because the Waleses contain the heir to the throne and the one after that. They also contain a family that doesn't regularly shit upon the other members of its family, and therefore it's a matter of common sense that they are viewed as more important than the Sussexes. Harry, of course, knows this. After all, he's complained about being the spare, but he also knows that's the way of things. For instance, Andrew has been the spare, but he hasn't engaged in the pity plays that have taken place from Harry, encouraged by his wife. Of course, that's because Andrew is a different type of narcissist, whereby as an upper lesser type B, he's bullish and boastful and belligerent and doesn't really do the pity plays. Princess Anne was a spare, and she doesn't complain. As a normal, she gets on with it, puts some stick about, and basically ensures that she protects the monarchy. Whereas Harry, of course, he knows that this is what happens, but he's been corrupted by the perpetual moaning and status seeking of his wife. Following the late Queen's death, the Telegraph continues, the Duke and Duchess confirmed that they would like their children, Archie III and Lilibet I, to use the Prince and Princess titles they had automatically inherited. Hypocrisy. Demonstration once again of Harry's wife slating the institution that is the monarchy, but desperate, oh so desperate to have those titles for the children. But the palace's delay in recognising the children's elevated status caused frustration, threat to control, not least as the Prince and Princess of Wales's titles and those of their children were swiftly changed upon the late Queen's death. The Duke of Sussex made clear in television interviews in January that he was holding out for an apology from his family. Of course, Harry's wife's hand was firmly wedged up his backside, making his jaws flap in order to cause him to state that an apology was required. When he insisted, he wanted to reconcile with the King and the Prince of Wales. Tensions with Charles were soothed when the King did eventually reach out to his son, Hoover, and the pair had a heart-to-heart shortly before the Duke confirmed his attendance at the coronation. But there were no such overtures to Harry's wife, assertion of control by essentially giving her a silent treatment, with whom relations with the Prince and Princess of Wales remain at rock bottom. Of course, the Prince and Princess of Wales have been suitably advised to have nothing to do with her. The Duchess told Winfrey that several conversations had taken place between the unnamed member of the royal family and the Duke about what their unborn son would look like. Potential revision of history, pity play, smearing. She told the US broadcaster it was safe to assume there were concerns about his skin tone. Or rather, she portrayed it as concerns when in actual fact it was simple idle speculation that goes on whenever a child is on its way. She declined to name the person involved, saying, "I think that would be very damaging to them." Whereas, of course, her narcissism recognised by not saying who it was, staying within vagueness, which is a form of manipulation that narcissists use, there'd be more chatter and speculation about it, thus gaining more fuel for her. The Duchess did not use the word racist about the incident during the interview. As many people have pointed out, she didn't need to. It was inferred. The Duke also refused to elaborate further, but suggested that it was just a single conversation that had taken place, which of course shows that their stories don't match up, demonstrating once again the propensity for Harry's wife to revise history. "It was awkward. I was a bit shocked," he said. At the time of the interview, the King, then the Prince of Wales, was said to have been deeply concerned about the racism allegations, which prompted crisis meetings at the highest level of the institution. Sources suggested he felt let down by his son and daughter-in-law, who he had supported more than he would care to say, facade management. In January, the Duke attempted to row back from the damaging allegations made in their interview with Winfrey, insisting that he did not believe the royal family was racist, and that he had never suggested they were. Revision of history. The claim about the comment about Prince Archie was not repeated in his memoir. The Duke told ITV's Tom Brayby that when he and the Duchess revealed that a member of the family had raised concerns about the colour of their unborn-skinned son, they were not accusing them of racism. Revision of history? Lie. Of course they were. It was blatantly clear in the interview that that's what was happening. Asked if he would not consider that essentially racist, he replied, "I wouldn't, not having lived within that family." The comment was considered an olive branch from the Duke to his family in an apparent about-turn after the palace was engulfed in a race crisis in the wake of his claims. The Sussex's disclosure about the alleged incident caused shockwaves around the world and proved incredibly damaging to the monarchy, prompting the late Queen to issue her response, "Recollections may vary." Of course, it demonstrates once again Harry's wife's lack of emotional empathy for making such spurious allegations about the monarchy, and also in a way that was very upsetting to an old and increasingly infirm monarch. The King has long championed multicultural Britain, facade management, and firmly believes it is his role to protect and celebrate such diversity. He has recently given his backing to a research project into the royal family's historical links to the slave trade, having previously expressed his personal sorrow over the suffering of transatlantic slaves, false compassion, facade management. It has raised the prospect that the King might even be prepared to pay reparations, although the palace has insisted it is too early to discuss it. The Duchess has expressed disappointment at the lack of support she received from the institution during her time as a working member of the family. Revision of history, pity play, when she felt she was subject to a volley of racist abuse, although of course she's never ever been able to actually pinpoint what this racist abuse was, from which she was unable to protect herself. The simmering resentment was only exacerbated following the death of Elizabeth II, when the Sussexes felt they were treated appallingly by the royal family. A failure to personally inform the Duke that his grandmother had died before putting out a public statement was followed by an apparent about-turn over the Duke's right to wear military uniform and an invitation sent in error to a state reception at Buckingham Palace. Despite putting on a united front with the Prince and Princess of Wales when the foursome greeted well-wishers in Windsor, see the Windsor Walkabout, the tension behind the scenes was palpable. There we have the Telegraph reporting on the issuing of this letter, which is nothing more than a further excuse being issued by Harry's wife in an attempt to make her look good and to provoke the king. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.